Trump has been indicted in Mar-a-Lago. This is another case. This one is about the classified documents scandal. They have brought out charges against him. He's facing 7 counts under the Espionage Act, charges of obstruction of justice, destruction or falsification of records, conspiracy, and false statements. He was indicted in Florida, in Miami. Very likely, I think that he'll get a jury that will probably be split. Yeah, I think that his chance of getting a fair trial there is good, and frankly, I don't think it's going to go really anywhere based on that. Let's be honest with ourselves. But it's going to be good political theater leading into the 2024 elections, which is why I believe this is actually taking place. And my personal theory on this, and I'll go deeper into the story, is that they're just trying to surround Trump with controversy. They've been doing it since 2016. It didn't work so far. They're trying to blanket Trump with controversy to make him so volatile that nobody will dare to stand by him. Or at the very least, that the Republican establishment, the Republican Party, chooses to distance themselves from him and either chooses a DeSantis or a Mike Pence or someone else. I think they really want Mike Pence. If you were to watch Fox News or most of the major news outlets, you'll see they're having the other Republican candidates on all the time. And Trump is the too controversial to touch guy. They won't touch him. CNN got him on. The CEO of CNN just got the boot based on what looked like an Atlantic story. And the context of that is that CNN dared to have Trump on to talk about what he wanted to talk about. They're trying to make him too volatile. You touch him, you get him on your show, you're out. That's what they want. Let's talk about this case, then we'll go into a bit more stuff. I will say briefly, I don't think this case is going to go anywhere. Obama did it, Hillary Clinton did it, Mike Pence did it, Joe Biden did it, and actually a lot worse, it seems. Bill Clinton did it, every president since Ronald Reagan did it, taking home classified documents. Trump declassified the documents. The letter is public where he states that he's declassifying them. I think the big question is going to be whether the documents he actually took home were the ones he declassified or not. And of course, the way that this is being framed is just ridiculous. It's a big, in my opinion, it's a big nothing burger. It's meant to create controversy. The big case, the one they're going to really try to slap him real hard with, that is going to be the January 6th case, which is still incoming. And some people, talking with some colleagues about this, and I've seen other people say it as well. The common belief among journalists, it seems, is that they're trying to, the establishment is basically not holding this case in Washington, D.C., because Washington is going to be the Jan 6 trial. And frankly, we've seen how honest the January 6 trial judge has been. Trump will absolutely not get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. over January 6. He will absolutely not get a fair jury. And the judge has already clearly made it apparent that he has extreme bias when it comes to this. Trump doesn't stand a chance of getting a fair trial in Washington. But frankly, I will also say that his voters have stuck by him despite 2.5 years of the January 6 narratives, and it hasn't changed. It's not going to change the way people vote. And even more so than that, I think them piling on these cases one after the next, although I think the idea is to disenfranchise people, I believe it's having the opposite, and I'll explain why in a bit. But let's go deeper into this. So, former President Donald Trump said on June 8th that his attorneys informed him that he has been indicted by special counsel Jack Smith in connection with an investigation into his handling of classified documents. Trump said this on Truth Social. Let me show you what he said. The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is secured only by a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. This is another post from Trump on Truth Social. He says, "I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States who received far more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country and is currently leading by far all candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in polls of the 2024 presidential election. I am an innocent man." Now, news of the Trump indictment arrived just days, notably after Trump's lawyers spent about 2 hours inside the DOJ, the Department of Justice, on June 5th, apparently addressing their concerns about the way the case was being handled. Now, let's talk about some of the big things. So first of all, Trump is facing many, many different investigations simultaneously. There's still the Stormy Daniels case with Alvin Bragg in New York. That case is miraculous. I mean, just fantastically imploding right now. The long and short of it is that the prosecutors under Alvin Bragg, the district attorney who's bringing the charges against Trump, the prosecutors under him, by, of course, leaving and then writing a book and then doing a media tour, one of them, Alvin Bragg having ties to that individual. That case, that individual looks like he just harpooned the entire thing and torpedoed the entire case. That case is already going down in flames. They will still probably try to charge Trump on it, but again, the Stormy Daniels case is already going down in flames. The other one, the rape accusation, that is just a misdemeanor. Trump has to pay a fine, but even then, he's challenging it. Frankly, I don't think it's not gonna do anything other than Trump having to pay a fine. He's already challenging it. The Mar-a-Lago case, the one we're talking about right now, this one, of course, Trump's going to face trial in Miami. Frankly, he's going to go out and show, hey, Joe Biden, while he was still a senator, was taking home classified documents. Hey, it looks like that bribery document, the one that the FBI tried keeping from investigators, keeping from Congress. Hey, it looks like that was one of the documents he had at his private home, detailing his alleged crime of foreign corruption influencing his policies. It's going to create it's going to create a scandal for the Democrats. Hey, what about those documents he has in Chinatown? Hey, what about him, getting the investigator fired in Ukraine who was investigating his son, Hunter Biden, at Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company, while Biden notably was clearing the way for gas deals in Ukraine using policy, and admitted on video that he got the guy fired who was investigating his own son, and who notably was on the panel with another guy who was part of the whole thing in Ukraine, who Biden, funny enough, put in charge of that Penn Biden Center overseeing the area where Biden was taking classified documents. The whole thing is messy. It's incredibly messy. Hey, what about Hillary Clinton and her private email server? Dan Bongino has been saying this, by the way. I like his show, actually. Dan Bongino's been saying this, by the way. Hey, what about Hillary? Because this is the way the system works when you have clearance for emails and the presidential email systems. Remember when Hillary Clinton had that private email server in her basement, and then they got investigated for it, and then they wiped their servers clean, and then destroyed their cell phones with hammers? Well, funny enough, she had a private email server connected to it. What else happened? Well, with that private email server, it turned out that Barack Obama had his BlackBerry phone. Remember the BlackBerry phone he made such a big deal about keeping? Turns out that Hillary's private email server was one of the cleared emails for Barack Obama, meaning Barack Obama was aware of it, meaning Barack Obama was in on it, meaning, frankly, they all did the exact same thing that Trump is now facing charges for. It's not looking good. That's how that case is going to go. You're going to be watching months of, we got him this time. You're going to be watching this for months, and this is going to be the show, and that's just how it is. I think it's going to ironically give Trump the airtime that he's not getting. You might notice almost none of the media are having Trump on. I will say he's kind of hard to get on. I've been trying to get him on too. He's not responding. He's hard to get on his show for some reason. But you might notice a lot of the media is not having him on. it's going to give him airtime, the likes of which he would not get otherwise. And just like we saw, ironically, a bump in the polls when he got indicted over the whole storm, or called the, called into New York over the whole Stormy Daniels case, his polls jumped, and his competitor, the other Republican candidates, their polls dropped. And this is going to look bad on DeSantis as well because it's in Florida, it's in Miami. That being said, there are two other cases they're trying to bring against him. One is the Georgia case around election fraud and so on, and Trump allegedly trying to interfere with the elections by calling for investigations. I don't think that's, I mean, again, he probably won't get a fair trial, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. A president making a stink about allegations of election fraud. Who hasn't done that? Bill Clinton was doing that. It was Al Gore. Remember Al Gore and George Bush? I want a recount. I demand a recount. How about Hillary Clinton getting a foreign spy, Christopher Steele? Christopher Steele, a literal foreign spy with the British, hiring him to go and talk to foreign nationals, Russians, to create actual falsified information on a political enemy, which she then disseminated throughout the intelligence community with the DNC's help, and then accused Trump of doing, ironically, the same thing they did, which was, colluding with Russia to interfere in with an election. They literally colluded with two Russians to create disinformation, to interfere with an election, working with a foreign spy, Christopher Steele, as the kind of the middleman. It's ridiculous. Anyways. That's how that's going to go. The Georgia case. The big one's going to be the D.C. case. But I think what they want by then is they want to paint Trump as like an El Chapo figure. Trump is going to be so criminally surrounded. He's going to have this El Chapo vibe when he rolls up there. He's going to be like Pablo Escobar by that time. He will have faced the court, trials in all these different states. It's just a pattern with him. This guy is just. He's just living the criminal life. Apparently, he's going to roll up to D.C. Maybe with armed guards, not to protect him from audiences, but to protect the audience from him. At that point, he's going to have a Secret Service detail to protect the crowd from him at this rate, because he just has such a crazy criminal track record. He's going to roll up in D.C. after dealing with all this. And then he's not going to get a fair trial. So D.C. is going to be the big one. But frankly, folks, this is just the show. How is it going to pan out? Look, it's never worked in history. It didn't work with, frankly, just about anybody, in fact. It's gonna be the same story you see where the popular political candidate gets attacked by the system, maybe even goes to jail for a little bit, but sometimes even wins from prison or comes back afterwards and wins. History has shown this over and over again. You can't get rid of people by prosecuting them as political enemies. It just doesn't work. At the same time, too, again, I think the real agenda here is they want to paint Trump as this is my personal opinion, of course. They want to paint Trump as being so dirty, so volatile, so dangerous, and so just irresponsible that the establishment, at least the Republicans and maybe his voters, just don't want anything to do with him. They want to make him so volatile that the media will face a scandal every time he goes on a show. They want to make him so scandalous that he is associated with white supremacy and insurrection and misogyny and abuse of women and all these narratives they try to push out, that any affiliation with him will automatically paint you with that same affiliation. That's what they're trying to do. Why doesn't that work? Because the Democrats made a fatal problem. They made a fatal mistake. It is the dumbest mistake in history, and one that I think was easy to fall into, but one which is going to come back and bite them. What did the Democrats do that made it so that is not going to work? They went after Trump's base. They went after more than half the country using mostly the same narratives. Now, if Trump is indicted over the January 6th stuff, well, guess what? Half the country has been worried about the FBI knocking on their door over similar things. Half the country has watched people get thrown in the gulag. Half the country has watched, when they were protesting against, what they saw as election fraud. Remember, the Democrats did that for more than 4 years. When they were protesting against election fraud, and they were really concerned about this, and keep in mind the polling data shows that the majority of Republicans, and almost all Republicans, and even a lot of Democrats, in fact, the majority of them as well, recognize that voting fraud exists and it's a serious issue. They're going to see that that could have been them. That could have been them. And they will feel that. They will feel that they have also been threatened by that same system. When it comes to the allegations of like the Me Too stuff, most men and I think most women know that, frankly, that it's just a political game these days. Yes, there are legitimate cases of rape and terrible things like that. A lot of it is personal vendettas and bias. And Trump getting hit with this, frankly, the cases are not very solid. When it comes to Alvin Bragg, look, who thinks they would get a fair trial in New York unless you're a criminal, unless you're an actual criminal? Who has faith in the New York legal system? Alvin Bragg has become a symbol of New York, corruption of justice. It doesn't work. None of these things are going to hold water, and the reason is it's not going to achieve what it wants to achieve, and the reason is Trump's base has stuck by him for the last 2.5 years while being accused of mostly the same stuff. They don't see Trump as being outside of that. They see Trump as being a symbol of, hey, we're all in this boat together and we're all being attacked together. And they don't see that as being separate from themselves. They see Trump as the guy kind of standing in the doorway taking the bullets while they try to make their escape. That's what it feels like for them. Trump is taking the abuse that they would be taking otherwise. It's not going to work, in other words. And if that is the goal, if the goal is to, again, paint Trump in controversy, it's not going to work because the Democrats have done so much to attack Trump's base using many of the same narratives. They are not going to distance themselves from him because of that. I think that's the nature of this, and that's what I think is going to happen. That said, folks, let's jump over to Epoch TV, and then we'll go into questions. So leave your questions in the chat, and we'll jump over now. Again, link in the description. I want to talk briefly about Joe Biden as well. That said, folks, thanks for being here. So while this is happening, a very real criminal case is also unfolding, one having to do with a president selling access to his powers while he was still a senator. One having to do with a corrupt family that was making foreign deals, selling off American policy. One that had to do with the president then vice president, using his powers in office, quid pro quo, to have people fired who were investigating his family members in crimes that could have incriminated him as well. No, this is not Donald Trump. This is Joe Biden. And it seems now that Congress is getting the document, that $5 million bribery document from the FBI, which the FBI was trying to withhold. Given the situation, the House of Representatives is now canceling the contempt charges against Christopher Wray. Now, we'll see what happens with this. There's a good chance it'll go nowhere. But regardless, this is happening, ironically, at the same time they're trying to charge Trump. Well, they are charging Trump, according to him. Let me show you this. Epoch Times. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability has canceled contempt of Congress proceedings against FBI Director Christopher Wray following the agency's release of an unclassified document to the entire committee. They've all seen it now. In addition to the requested access for the entire committee, the FBI is making 2 additional documents referenced in the FD 1023, that's the name of the document, available for House Oversight Chairman James Comer and Ranking Democrat member Jamie Raskin. The change came hours after Comer announced on June 7th that he released a resolution to hold Wray in contempt because of a refusal to comply with a lawfully issued subpoena to view a document believed to pertain to claims that a foreign national bribed then Vice President Joe Biden.